Stand up, thief! The prosecutor snapped sharply, pointing at the man sitting in the courtroom. Everyone fell silent. The man was old, wearing a worn-out jacket and struggling to sit straight. He didn't say a word or ask for mercy. His military medal, faded and dull, hung on his chest, barely shining under the courtroom lights. From the back benches, low murmurs started. "That's him, the one who broke into the store," someone whispered. A woman shook her head angrily. "Lock him away already." Then the courtroom door swung open. A tall woman with fiery red hair and sharp eyes walked in confidently. Her heels clicked loudly as she made her way to the defense side. She didn't seem like she belonged in this rundown courtroom or next to a man the world had already judged. She set down her bag, took a steady breath, and looked straight at the judge. "May I speak?" she asked calmly. The prosecutor scoffed, but nodded. "Go ahead." She turned to face the jury. "You've heard he stole medicine," she began softly. "But have you heard why?" Her voice grew stronger, steady like thunder rolling in. "This man is 78 years old. He served in the army overseas, lost an arm in battle. When he came home, no one welcomed him. He raised his grandchildren alone after his wife passed away. He worked nights as a security guard until his hands trembled too much to hold a flashlight." The courtroom shifted uncomfortably. 3 months ago, she continued, his granddaughter suddenly collapsed. She has a rare illness that needs expensive medication. Her mother couldn't afford it, and insurance refused to help them. Desperate, this man walked several miles to the only open pharmacy. He broke in, took 2 bottles of medicine, and then turned himself in the next day. She pulled out a wrinkled photo, a small girl with tubes in her arm, clutching a stuffed rabbit. "This is who he stole for," she said quietly. A juror wiped tears away. The judge looked down, fiddling with his pen. The prosecutor jumped up. "Still a crime? Theft is theft. What message do we send if we excuse this?" She faced him, voice firm. "What message did we send when he returned home disabled, unable to find work? When the Veterans Office turned him away time after time? When his granddaughter's life was worth less than his pension?" Then she did something unexpected. She approached the old man. "James," she said gently. He slowly knelt down, confused. "This," she told the court, "is the position he took the day he was awarded the Medal of Honor for saving his squad under fire." She looked around the room. "You made him kneel like a criminal. But who really should be kneeling?" Gasps filled the air. One juror covered her mouth. Another removed his glasses to stare in disbelief. Suddenly, a small voice called out, "Grandpa." A little girl holding a worn teddy bear stepped forward. Her mother tried to stop her, but she ran straight into James's arms. No one in the room breathed. Then one juror stood. Another followed. Soon, the entire jury rose, even the judge. The prosecutor sat frozen, his jaw tight. Tears rolled down James's face as he hugged his granddaughter. No prison, no fines, just a unanimous verdict, time already served. As the courtroom emptied, a man whispered, "That woman didn't just win a case. She brought back something we forgot: respect." In the silence that followed the courtroom's verdict, something profound settled over the room, a quiet recognition of what had been lost and what was found again. James, the old man once branded a thief, walked out not as a criminal, but as a symbol of resilience and sacrifice. His story, once buried beneath layers of judgment and misunderstanding, had been brought to light by the courage of a woman who refused to let society's harsh labels define a man's humanity. What this moment truly reveals is the complexity behind actions we are quick to condemn. It's easy to say someone is guilty when you see only the surface, a break-in, a theft, a crime. But when you look deeper beyond the black and white lines of law, you find a landscape painted in shades of hardship, desperation, and love. James did not steal out of greed or malice. He stole to save a life, to protect his granddaughter, to do what no system of support would do for them. This case lays bare the harsh realities many face quietly every day. The disabled veteran denied care, the family crushed by the weight of unaffordable medication, the invisible struggles that push people to desperate acts. It exposes a failure not of individuals, but of society. When institutions turn their backs, when policies prioritize profit over people, when empathy is overshadowed by bureaucracy, stories like James's become inevitable. But the story doesn't end with failure. It is also a story about the power of justice when it is tempered with compassion. The defense attorney, stepping into a broken system, reminded everyone that justice is not just punishment, but understanding. Her refusal to accept the simple narrative of guilt forced the courtroom to confront uncomfortable truths. And in doing so, she restored something precious, the dignity of a man, the humanity behind a headline. There's a lesson here for all of us, one that transcends the walls of courtroom. It is a call to look beyond the surface, to question easy judgments, to listen carefully to the stories behind the actions we condemn. James's case is a mirror reflecting the gaps in our social safety nets and the urgent need for reform. It challenges us to build systems that do not force people into desperation, but offer support, care, and respect. This story also shines a light on the sacrifices of veterans, many of whom return home to battles far different from the ones they fought overseas. The scars of war linger long after the guns fall silent, in lost limbs and shattered spirits, in the struggle to find place and purpose in a world that has moved on. James's journey reminds us that honoring those who serve means more than medals and ceremonies. It means ensuring they have the care and opportunities they deserve. Moreover, the courtroom scene, with its mix of tension, revelation, and eventual empathy, illustrates the vital role of human connection and justice. When the granddaughter ran into James's arms, the room transformed from a place of accusation to one of healing. The jury's standing ovation was more than a legal decision. It was a recognition that at the heart of every case are real lives, real people, deserving of kindness and fairness. What struck me most is the courage displayed by both James and his defender. James, for facing a system that seemed set against him, for taking responsibility even when the odds were stacked high, and his defender, for using her voice not just to argue law, but to speak truth to power, to remind everyone in that courtroom of what it means to be human. In reflecting on this, I'm reminded that justice should never be blind to context or compassion. Laws exist to maintain order and protect society, yes, but they must also be instruments of mercy. Without compassion, justice can become cold, rigid, and unjust in its own way. The story also encourages us to question our own assumptions. How often do we judge without knowing the whole story? How often do we allow stereotypes and bias to cloud our view of other struggles? James's experience pushes us to embrace empathy, to understand that people's choices are shaped by circumstances often invisible to us. In a broader sense, this case highlights the power of advocacy, how one person's determination to speak up can change lives and shift perspectives. It's a reminder that sometimes the most profound change begins not with grand gestures, but with one voice willing to stand for what is right, even when it's hard. As we close this chapter, I want to ask, what does honor mean to you? Is it the medals and titles, or the quiet acts of love and sacrifice? How can we, as a community, ensure no one is left behind, no life undervalued? James's story is not just his alone. It belongs to all of us who care about justice, dignity, and humanity. It calls us to build a society where no one has to break the law just to survive, where compassion guides our judgments, and where the wounds of war and hardship are met with healing rather than punishment. In the end, the courtroom was more than a place of law that day. It became a place of recognition, of a man's courage, a granddaughter's love, and a community's chance to remember what true honor looks like.